Welcome, everybody. Is everybody in the right room? Are you interested to hear about Breatharianism? Yes? I think it's possible that I can talk to everybody perhaps without the microphone. Can everybody hear? It's better? It's better?
More natural.
Right, it's more natural. We might just turn that off. So what I would like to cover, I would like for us solidly to have an inner standing by my having the ability to be able to direct your attention to things in nature which help explain this. So as you would get up from your seat after you've heard this today, it's possible to consider that you will have changed. Awareness burns away thought. So there would be no reason for thought in some of these areas. So I'd like for us to talk about Breatharianism. What is this? Because originally we were Breatharians. As a baby in utero, you primarily existed off gases. And still to this very day, whether you're aware of this or not, you primarily are living off gases. And a colloid is smaller than 600,000th of an inch, and it's so small it resists the pull of gravity. When you blow your hand, what can you feel? You feel colloids that's invisible. We can't see it, but the air is full of colloids. If we could make a very dark room and we would have a beam of light, like sunlight probing through a hole in the roof or something, and we saw this beam of light against the dark background, we would see scintillating, floating little particles here that has joined into strings. These are colloids. So our blood is made from gases, and our blood is made from colloids. And originally, we really did not have much intestinal tract at all. You might be surprised to discover what it is actually that you may be living off. So I'd like to cover a couple of things in our talk today. When you get up from your seat, it's possible to have a greater understanding of how matter forms. And I would love for us, all of us, to have a greater understanding of what food is. And does what you eat become incorporated into the cellular structure? We might be surprised to discover, no, not really. Well, then how does matter form where there was nothing? We used to have, can you imagine right now in your minds, an exotic moonscape? Craters, dust, dry, no plant, no flora. Can you imagine that the earth was like this at one time? Like an exotic moonscape. Then how did life arise from this barren moonscape? How does life arise as a result of having been a molten planet that was not even solid? But yet now we see what we have here in all of nature's splendor. How did this arrive? How did the first life arise? Can you imagine just for a moment now a cactus in the desert? This cactus can grow to be tons and tons and tons and tons of cactus. Now if you look at the cactus, it has no roots. It's just sitting in the soil. The minerals in that soil provide an electrical conduction for it to be grounded. That cactus took nothing from the soil, but actually created more soil. An experiment was done. This very bright person looked and saw that it seemed like a plant that he had grown so enormous over some 17 years. He watched this plant grow to an enormous size out of this little box and thought, wow, it's obvious that the tree didn't get its nutrients from this box, because it's like tons and tons and tons. And so decided to do an experiment and took plants and trees and planted, measured the soil, the weight of the soil, measured everything in the soil so it would be scientific analysis. And lo and behold, some 3 years later, after the finishing of the experiment, it was discovered nothing was taken from the soil. But there were tons already of one plant had grown to be tons, and yet had not taken anything from the soil. Spanish moss grows just hanging on something. All it uses, what it hangs on, is simply to hang on to something. That's all. Experiments have been done to show that there's an enormous array of minerals in this Spanish moss, but yet nothing was taken from what it grew on. So, an egg. Imagine a fertilized egg that's 3 days old. And we measure the amount of minerals in this egg. Now, an egg can't take nutrition. It's already complete in and of itself. An unfertilized egg already has a heartbeat the same as a chicken and pulses at the same beat as the heart rate of a chicken, unfertilized. Well, let's take a fertilized egg. We measure the amount of minerals in this fertilized egg. It's 3 days old egg. And actually what we can do is we can burn the minerals, we can burn the egg to an ash, and then we can discover what is in the egg as far as its minerals are concerned. So we can measure the amount of minerals after 3 days old, and then we can look at this egg after it's 12 days old and measure this. There can be 600% more minerals in the egg. How did those minerals get there? There was no true nutrition. These minerals are biologically transmutated from cosmic energy. And this is what is happening in your body and my body. There are many false doctrines that's taught. Can you imagine can we imagine a windmill? Can everybody see that? Yeah. Okay. So now, food, there are two forces primarily. Can imagine this to be a cell. The structure of the body is made up out of colloids, and you could imagine this to be like the windmill. The wind comes, right, it does not change the windmill, but that wind comes and it moves the windmill. Food basically flows past our cells and causes our cells to be stimulated, but does not provide nutrition for the cell. The colloids of our body is primarily composed and made up out of blood, and that blood and the colloids from that blood cell incorporated itself into the eye or hair or the cells of our body. Cosmic energy is the most predominant form of energy here in this space. Sunlight is a small component of this. Most of this energy is astral energy that's here. It's the finest substance and energy of its kind here, present. All that we see around us is condensed degrees of cosmic energy. Condensed, graded degrees of cosmic energy. Cosmic energy being condensed, passing through the friction grid of the body, being condensed into tachyons, and tachyons being condensed through the friction grid of ourselves into electrons. So there's a biological transmutation of one element into another. So first, all of our minerals, all of the nutrients that make up our cells occur for you at night, primarily, where cosmic energy can have its greater effect. Ultraviolet light from the sun during the day diminishes some of the cosmic energy, but primarily cosmic energy is present at night, and this is the time that it's possible that you can grow. This is the time of your day that it's possible to rejuvenate. Only at rest, at night, does rejuvenation occur. If there is no rest, there is no rejuvenation. Only as the body is completely at rest is it possible for human growth hormone to be released. So cosmic energy is right throughout and pervasive, and that cosmic energy passes through friction grids and becomes condensed into tachyons, and tachyons become condensed into the colloidal material that the body is composed of. When we were originally breatharian, and then the first oldest story is about how we tasted a bit of fruit and we thought, oh my God, this is pretty good. And then the story is that we finally had knowledge of ourself, but before that point we didn't. We were much more stimulus signal bound more, not having as much of a consciousness in this way that we have it today. But the first time we ate something and we enjoyed the taste of this, and then we started to eat this, our intestinal tract started to grow. So ordinarily the intestinal tract is a very rudimentary state. There's much evidence of on the earth of organs which are only in a rudimentary state today, that had evolved because of a use and now have reduced back to where it was. And certainly there is evidence of organs which have become more complex and advanced in itself as well. So when we're born on the earth, our intestinal tract is quite small and our lungs are large. And hydrogen gas becomes what's called nascent hydrogen in the intestinal tract. And that's the primary use of the intestinal tract for producing colloids from the air and matter and protein from the air. It requires this nascent hydrogen gas that's produced in the intestinal tract to combine with nitrogen from the air. These two elements combine and start to allow us to make the proteins in things. When we started to eat, the intestinal tract started to grow and hypertrophy, and some people have eaten enormously, and I'm called a breatharian, and that somebody who's eating all the time is called a gluttarian. And I would like to share with you that there is a way, wherever you are, to heal. And that It's possible through life food nutritional fasting and moving more towards life food and food which has its life force to become more complete. So imagine that it was chewing tobacco or Coca-Cola or a coffee or a bagel or an apple or heroin that caused this to spin. Now, if you withdraw that drug, you withdraw heroin, right? You withdraw what you did, what happens? Yes, stop spinning. Matter of fact, when you withdraw something that the body got used to, the body could have gone into a prophylactic shock. So things have to be done in a way that we actually re-educate and recondition our body, which happens by moving to life food, food which has its life force, which is vegetarian. And by the way, we have Ren Berry sitting up the front here, quite a most amazing author, an author of famous vegetarians. And what's the name of the book? Is Food for the Gods. Food for the Gods is a great a dialogue between some very amazing people, all about vegetarianism. We are originally frugivores, not herbivores, although green makes clean, and green can be very helpful because of its antimicrobial properties. We may need to do some things actually to move toward the place of having this function without having to chew tobacco, or without the bread, or the bagel, or the pizza, or the coffee, or what you're drinking. So there's two types of forces primarily which cause our cells to function. There is a chemical force, which we have been talking about, and then there is a nerve force. And both these two forces are important for the cells to be stimulated. Without these forces, the cells are not stimulated. So what you drink, what you've eaten, creates a stimulation of the cell to function, but it is not incorporated into the cell as we've thought, as what modern medicine has thought. Modern medicine says that blood is made from the marrow of your bones. Untrue. False doctrine. Blood is, in health, produced in the intestinal tract and in the bottom of the lungs from gases, colloids, material that have aggregated and fused and differentiated. There is no DNA in your blood cells. But modern medicine, because they can't understand how something could have existed without DNA, they think that blood was made from a cell. And then apparently something happened to that DNA. They have no idea. Sabin, Cunningham, and Doan were the three major people who did that seminal, not seminal really, but research that actually caused the medical profession to think that blood was made in the marrow of the bone from that experiment, which they did with starving chickens. And then eventually they found some blood reverse differentiated from the marrow of the bone. But they did not really look in many places at all, but they just saw that, and from that they thought that blood was made in long bones. Untrue. All our cells arrived from colloids that were originally from a red blood cell. Now, red blood cells, primarily in health, is made in the bottom of the lungs and in the intestinal tract from gases. So it only is the gas of what you've consumed that's possible that you could get some use of this. So our whole somatotype, our teeth, our intestinal tract, the size of the pancreas in relationship to the intestinal tract, the strength of the hydrochloric acid of the stomach, the length of the large and small intestinal tract, the liver and what the liver produces enzymatically, somatotyping, because my background in Western medicine is as a physiologist. I'm a Western trained physiologist. Physiologist looking at this picture looks to see how does our digestive tract and what we eat and our body type and organ function fit with the rest of nature. When you look at the strength of our upper stomach, the acid, which was very strong, far stronger than a carnivore's. A carnivore intestinal tract and upper stomach only has a pH of 4 and does not require hydrochloric acid. People have grown more to have required greater strength of hydrochloric acid to be able to have broken plant fibre down. But when we look at our physiognomy and organs fit exactly into a breatharian, certainly, and frugivore. We primarily are frugivores, and we existed and have evolved over the period of time that we have eaten mostly from smaller fruits. So everything that comes from a flower is a fruit. So a seed is a fruit. A nut is a fruit. A cauliflower is a fruit of a grass. A broccoli is a fruit of a grass and came from a flower. All things which came from a flower that's eaten is a fruit. Now we're primarily frugivores, not herbivores. We're not designed to eat grasses, not really. Lettuce and all these sorts of things. Because there are opiates in that green that can cause you less than to remain awake. Although we might need to do green to get clean, because green makes clean. So far, what have we discovered? What we've talked about. That there's lots of evidence in nature of a biological transmutation of things not taking nutrition yet surviving perfectly. There's lots of life forms that only survive because of the bacteria they're made of. You and I, we're all made out of mitochondria, which exists in nature and have come from a purple acid-fast type of bacteria that existed a long time ago on the earth that has incorporated itself into our cells. And there are several ways these colloids of life, these little organelles, tap into free energy. So you are primarily running off free energy, whether you knew it or not. Most people have thought that what they consume has caused them to actually have energy. But can you imagine now that when somebody does the heroin, they have energy. But when they don't do it, they have no energy. Is it because they are not having the heroin that they do not have energy? What's the reason? Huh?
The body got used to heroin.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And so now, what's happening when you stop bringing bread in? What happens?
Withdrawal.
Yes. And what other kinds of things can have happened when somebody stops doing rice and bread and potatoes and cooked foods, for instance, and flesh and things? When you stop doing those things, cleansing, detox. That's right. When you stop doing something that was a toxin, your body will go, whoa, wait a minute, we've got the opportunity possibly to clear this out now. And then toxins start to come out of the cells. And when you stop eating, it can cause the body to feel, oh, gee, you know. And then when you're bending down for a long period of time, you go to stand up, it's like, oh, God, you know. And all of this sort of a thing, which is happening to lots of us here. Bend over, be crumped up for a short while, and then go to stand up. How easy it is for you to spring up like a spring chicken. or debris. It's debris primarily in the body, which is the primary cause, and only one disease on the earth, and that is toxicity and lack of nerve force. And you could say that we start out as breatharians and we've slowly become gluttarians. What I recommend is move more toward live food and do some live food nutritional fasting. This is a videotape which helps explain how to prepare some foods and things on the nutritional fast. This colloidal biology book, which is possible to order because I'm out of copies of this at the moment, but I do have the live food recipe book. This colloidal biology book explains how matter is formed. And then the new work that we've been working on the last nearly 2.5 years is going to be coming out shortly. That's called Jubb cell rejuvenation, and that explains a lot of things which actually some of this you're hearing tonight. This picture, for the people who are listening to this tape today, I'm holding up a picture of the live food recipe book. On the front it has a picture of a star fruit, and it's the electromagnetic corona that's coming off a star fruit. You can see like an electrical lightning storm surrounding an orange, surrounding you and I. We have an electrical lightning storm around us. Whilst you have life, you have this electrical lightning storm. But once we're just a carcass, like flesh, there is no electricity like this. But in a piece of broccoli, it remains. In a prune, it remains. In a piece of celery, this remains. But in flesh, no. Once that flesh has no longer got the electricity to animate itself, there is none of this. Life begets life, and dead begets dead.
When you have like organic foods, does it show more of the life?
Yes, it does. Have a look. On the back of the book, there you have something which has, it's organic, has its life force. These were chosen for observing and seeing that they were close together, similar. But now we take a picture of what looks similar to find out there's a big difference. That has an enormous amount of electricity, and that has hardly any at all. Okay. So what we recommend that you may be interested to consider, first, that you can more go without than you have. We have a greater sustainable future on the earth the more we can move more toward food, which in a semblance of that food can be found growing wild. Corn? No. Banana? No. Potato? No. Rice? No. Wheat? No. Beets? No. Lots of foods people are eating. Dates? No. Yes, extremely. Not just a little bit. It's so hybridized, it is nothing like the original date. You have a carrot and you sow your field with carrot, and then you come back the next year and you notice that a lot of it went to seed, and it's sort of like, it's very shoddy. You come back the next season, you find just a tiny few there. Come back the season after that, nada. It's gone. Nothing. What happened? Why couldn't this survive? Why can't a carrot survive? Why can't wheat survive? Because it is only one step away from mold and fungus and yeast. And mold and fungus and yeast is the chief undertaker. Things stored in bins and silos. I'm a microspecialist. I taught people live blood cell analysis long before this became popular. And I've looked under the most sophisticated microscopes on the earth. And I have studied behind people who have done this for nearly 100 years. Gaston Naessons, Tsushima from Japan, Lepenshovsky from Russia, Gunther Endlin from Germany, I mean, and each one has some part of the picture, but not the whole picture.
My understanding of hybrids was that just like, certain people in this audience may come from different heritages, like some may be half Italian, half Irish. People will come together.
Yes.
And they call it a hybrid, of a species.
No, that's not a hybrid. A hybrid is something that cannot reproduce. But maybe, in some respects, two people could have got together and they can't reproduce.
But like they have hybrid fruits that have seeds that can still reproduce.
No, they're not really. Eventually, like a carrot has seeds, of course. Right? But Queen Anne's lace, a kiwi actually is close to a real, original sort of a thing, but that also won't survive in nature. No, only in a farmer's field. Pineapple, no, only in a farmer's field. But the original pineapple is real small, and there's lots of things in that same family that's similar to this that is in nature. But the pineapple that we're eating, no. That cannot be found growing wild in nature.
This has been a question I've always meant to ask you. When you read about things like carrots have beta-carotenes and others have potassium and all...
There's no beta-carotene in carrot. Let me just correct that right now. There is no beta-carotene in carrot. You can find how much beta-carotene in a carrot. You'd have to have a wheelbarrow load to equal the amount of beta-carotene in one of those bottles of frozen E3. You'd have to maybe have a wheelbarrow and a half to equal it, Sure, it's got a bit of beta-carotene in it. But is that the reason why? The farmers who grow it have said that. That's all. Let's just make a distinction right now. Let's make a distinction between education, which is like right on the edge, right, and headucation that came from commercialization. Now, lots of education has come from commercialization. Somebody holds up something and they say, oh my God, this has this. And why is it that Americans are so concerned in the past, but actually much more Americans are not as concerned about this anymore. But why is it that most Americans still say, where are you getting your protein? Where? Right, and it's like a child, right, and it actually came from that time. Did you know that the white moustaches they had on the boards everywhere for 3 years, right? And it says, got milk? Now, lots of kids are growing up and they're thinking, wow, Jesus, you need milk. What, you're not having any milk? Wait a minute, what's up? So now, we were all taught, most of us, right? Right, from the egg board and the dairy board and the meat board. It should be called the flesh board. They educated all the kids and they drew up the diagrams and everything. They said, look, flesh is on the bottom, and there's your eggs, there's your dairy, and there's a few grains up there. And that was the pyramid it used to be, But it was put out by those people. And so that has influenced lots of us to think, oh my God, where are you getting your protein? But actually there's no reason to be concerned about that at all.
Just from what you're saying, it sounds like the conclusion that you're coming to is that you should eat healthy, organic, unhybridized fruit and nuts and seeds.
Which is called life food.
And when, whatever, I've been having a sugar sensitivity.
Yes.
People have said nuts are bad for your liver.
Yes.
And seeds are bad for your liver. And
Correct.
Are
Correct.
sugarized.
Correct.
So,
that's a great question. I hope everybody on the tape could hear that. Basically you said, oh my God, people say, hey, if you've got candida and things, don't eat this or don't eat that, or gee my God, don't eat too many nuts. That's all true. Because no good food will do its job unless your organs are capable of managing it. You have to start here. We have to start. First, it's wise to have discovered what life food is. It's one word, like life boat, one word, or like life raft, one word. Life in front of something means to be saved. Life food, one word. So it's wise for us to learn what life food is, but then we need to move toward clearing away debris and things so that our body can function right. We have 5 more minutes left, and I would love to answer a few questions. The workshop very much is going to go into 6 energy systems that we have, and I'm going to talk more about actually what one can do to live more as a breatharian.
Positive food is very important too, because you need like the places you surround yourself with.
Yes, correct. So if you have plastic on, not much cosmic energy. Got a Faraday cage. Any plastics you wear on your body, any plastics on your feet, it's like living in a Faraday cage. Places where we're living and things can have not much cosmic energy because beams and things can be drawing that from large buildings and things. That's true. Some places, vortex-wise, have a lot more ability to give of itself energetically, than other places that actually can be taking from us. Okay, few short questions. Hemp seed, all the hemp seeds are agitated mechanically. There's not much present. The enzymes are mostly gone. They've been heated. They've been boiled and cooked. But in the wild, hemp seed can be useful. But as our questioner before, seeds and nuts and things like this, unless the organs are capable of managing it. But you might have to eat a nut to drink it. You have to drink what you chew and chew what you drink. But if you start chewing what you drink and drinking what you chew, and you bring in something that you might not have brought in before, the body has to get used to that. It has to build an organ generative force to be able to manage nuts. And then they have to be liquefied. Most people don't chew enough. Most everybody here is not chewing enough. We have to liquefy things. Things have to be more in a liquid state. I recommend moving more toward live food, cleansing, clearing, moving more towards liquidarian and liquidarian more to breatharianism. This is the path. Now I've been doing this for about 30 years, moving more toward this. I stopped eating in 1995. And I really did not know that it would be possible just to stop eating. But I discovered this because I needed to stop eating. If I did not stop eating, I would not be here.
And then how do you survive?
If I had eaten, I would be dead, probably.
How do you survive?
Am I surviving? I'll just share with you what I do. But you might consider, wow, he could not be living off that. I have mate tea. I have a mate tea.
What is that?
Mate is a herbal tea that often is had in South America. Mate. So I have M-A-T-E or A-E. No, that would be confusing. I'm just sharing with you what I bring in. That's all, right? But to say that's what I'm living on, no. That would be begging and the question of actually what we talked about before. What else do I do? I have a little honey in my tea. And I have my own urine. What have I had today? A good glass of my own urine this morning. That's what I have in the morning.
Urine.
Pee. I want you to know that all the very best beverages that you love and you look forward to is filthy, and is no nutritional value whatsoever.
Which one?
In comparison to urine. What has come from inside your body is superior to apple juice. What has come from inside your body is so clean, it's superior to grapefruit juice. Far superior.
What percentage of the urine do you drink?
I drink all that I produce.
Everybody can't do that right away, though, right?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can flush, and then what I do is I can flush my intestinal tract out, which I might do once a week, where I'll drink more fluid for a short while before bed, and that will cause me to pee, and then I will drink all of that as I can, and then I can flush my bowel. But otherwise there's no excretion.
You drink your urine.
Excretion ceases. The morning's urine is the very best urine of the day because it's full of hormones and minerals and cell salts and trace elements and vitamins, enzymes, pigments, antitoxins, antibodies, essential fatty acids, everything. Okay, look, who's got a very good question? Come on, shake your hand. You really got a good question. All right.
and yes foods for the average person?
Okay. Okay. Everything else. How's that? Isn't that amazing? I've just shared with you the foods to avoid and that everything else is okay. Mention a food right now and I'll just share with you that it's okay. Huh? Okra? Fine. Fruits? No, you may need to bring in green to make clean.
How about dandelion?
Dandelion, of course. But dandelion can put you to sleep. We're not herbivores. But some dandelion can be very helpful where you are. Peanut butter? No. Peanuts are very hybridized and they're full of aflatoxin and other substances.
You mean dandelion puts you to sleep?
Dandelion puts you to sleep.
I'm eating it every day.
I know, it causes a bit to be drowsy and sort of opiate-like. Yes, but be allowing, right?
Ann Wigmore says it's the best food there is.
I was Ann Wigmore's scientific advisor.
How old are you?
Okay. How old? Mostly about 1 year old. Mostly, you know? Actually. But some parts of me are newer than that. But I know my hairs, that's 7 years. Pardon? You would be shocked. If you're under 50, you're certainly a whippersnapper. And life only starts to get going when you're in about 60. So look after yourself, because you can look like you're 20 when you're 60. No, easy. We're not living as long as what we could at all. Okay, shake your hand. Come on, quick. All right, that's a good question. Okay, I only use an ultra pure water, which is the best water in New York City. It's called ultra pure water. We have a system that we sell to help people with the water in their homes. It's the purest water that you can get, not in a bottle. Absolutely not. It doesn't matter whether it came from some deep well somewhere. No. This is oxygenated water. This water system I recommend because it's got many spare electrons in the water. Many. It has a negative redox. It's going to give electrons more than an orange juice will. And you can have it in your home. Okay, we've got the big sign that says to stop. One more question here.
Talk about like regeneration of the body, like in cases as far as injuries, whether someone had like a traumatic injury or a deep wound.
Okay, wounds, our body ferments first, and it causes the fermentation in the area that needs to be healed. Acidification causes the dissolving of the colloid structure, and because there's a blueprint of energy there, what assembles back is perfectly how it was for the most part. But some injury can occur to our colloidal system, coagulation can occur, and there's no return back.
Can there be a compensation of function?
Yes, our body's very functionally plastic, and that's the major thing that we have an awareness of. That our body is very functionally plastic. Just like we used to have legs, if you no longer walked, something else would start to occur. If you were in the sea, you'd start to have, fins and things.
The way that leads to that would be to use like the body part or whatever to continue to go through it.
Yes, that will cause that body part to hypertrophy somewhat. But all body parts need to be rested. All body parts need to be rested. We need to absolutely have a rest. There should be a rest between defecation and when next you might have eaten. The longer the space, the better.
How many hours sleep do you need?
How many sleep? Not much. Not as much as what most people may be having, but you need sleep where you are. If you don't require it, it means that you're waking up when the sun is just about, starting to peak. You wake up and you're very bright and shiny. You go, right, I'm ready to go. Woo! And you wake up this way, and it's easy to go to sleep. We have to have cleared the room. Okay, another lecture coming in. Okay, so I have a workshop that's coming up, and is that in the Chelsea room? We're just round here.
If you're a breatharian, why do you drink water?
I don't drink water. I have a tea.
But that's water.
Yes, that's it. Like I'm reasonably consistent in what I do. I have a tea.
How many calories intake a day?
How many? In 2 tablespoons of bee pollen, there's under 100 calories. But there's more nutrients in that than what most people have eaten for 2 weeks. Most people are counting empty, dead, skeletonized calories.
quality of New York? Get off on it?
You can have in your home a great purifier for your air, so you have a cocoon where you are. It will take all virus and everything out of the air, all dust, mites and everything. If you'd love to connect with Ren, find the opportunity, make sure you do connect with Ren. I have Tim who's handing out some flyers here. Gorilla Tim, he's our media chief. He knows a lot about what we do here. We have Richard also that's sitting over here, has a badge on. We have Audrey also up the front here if you'd love to connect to learn a bit more about what we do.